Legend says that La Llorona was a crying woman, full of life and love, who married a wealthy man who lavished her with gifts and attention. However, after she bore him two sons, he began to change, returning to a life of womanizing and alcohol, often leaving her for months at a time. He seemingly no longer cared for the beautiful Maria, even talking about leaving her to marry a woman of his own wealthy class. When he did return home, it was only to visit his children, and the devastated Maria began to feel resentment towards the boys. One evening, as Maria was strolling with her two children on a shady pathway near the river, her husband came by in a carriage with an elegant lady beside him. He stood and spoke to his children, but ignored Maria, and then drove the carriage down the road without looking back. After seeing this, Maria went into a terrible rage, and turning against her children, she seized them and threw them into the water. As they disappeared downstream, she realized what she had done and ran down the bank to save them, but it was too late. Maria broke down in inconsolable grief, running down the street screaming and wailing. The beautiful La Llorona mourned them the day and night. During this time, she would not eat and walked along the river in her white gown searching for her boys, hoping that they would come back to her. She cried endlessly as she roamed the river banks, and her gown became oiled and torn. When she continued to refuse to eat, she grew thinner and appeared taller, until she looked like a walking skeleton. Still a young woman, she finally died on the banks of the river. Not long after her death, her restless spirit began to appear, walking the banks of the Santa Fe River when darkness fell. Her weeping and wailing became a curse of the night, and people began to be afraid to go out after dark. She was said to have been seen drifting between the trees along the shoreline, or floating on the current with her long white gown spread out upon the waters. On many a dark night people would see her walking along the river and crying for her children, and so they no longer spoke of her as Maria, but rather La Llorona, the weeping woman. Children are warned not to go out in the dark, for La Llorona might snatch them, throwing them to their deaths in the flowing waters.